Hello everyone, and thank you for clicking on this video. I wish I had better news to report today, but unfortunately it looks like the box office had a bit of a rough weekend. Now of course this is in comparison to other weekends in a summer where it felt like we've been getting hit after hit after hit. Now we've had a couple of misses over the summer, but for the most part it's been pretty great whenever it comes to movies and just the comeback of the theater industry. But unfortunately it had to end at some point. This is the lowest grossing weekend of the summer so far, dipping below $100 million. And it's not like nothing new came out. We saw two new releases come out this weekend and both underperformed. The first of which is DC League of Super Pets, the Dwayne Johnson Kevin Hart animated movie about Superman and Batman's dogs. Now I haven't had high expectations for this movie since I saw the first trailer. Nothing really stood out about this movie that made it look good in my opinion. And I'm a big fan of Dwayne Johnson. I'm really looking forward to Black Adam later on in the year, but DC League of Super Pets just wasn't doing it for me. Now granted, it came out and the reviews are actually a lot better than I thought they were. It even made me think about possibly going to see it, but I was just coming back from vacation, only had time to see one movie, and I decided to see Vengeance instead. But anyway, back to the box office. DC League of Super Pets opened to just $23 million this weekend. I don't think that's a good number for an animated movie coming out in the summer. I kind of talked about this last weekend whenever I was talking about Paws of Fury. There's no reason why, if you're an animated movie opening up in the peak summer months, that you shouldn't be doing excellent numbers at the box office, especially if you're a DC animated movie with Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart starring. Just from those two guys being involved, I have higher expectations whenever it comes to box office numbers. And despite all of those factors between who was in it, it being a known property, and it getting good reviews, only $23 million? I mean, really? It's not like it was really competing with anything else on the kids' side. It really only had Paws of Fury out there in theaters. Now, luckily, the movie was only produced for $90 million, which is pretty cheap whenever you consider that it's an animated movie, and those tend to run up the bill pretty quickly. But still, whenever it's all said and done, this movie might crack $100 million worldwide. That's not great, and the $90 million doesn't even include marketing, so it's questionable if this movie even walks away making a profit. And that's unacceptable if you're a studio executive. I mean, you got Dwayne Johnson, one of the biggest movie stars in the world, to star in your animated movie in the middle of summer. Why is this thing not doing like $50 million opening weekend? And it would be one thing if it opened and it was bad, but it has a positive review on Rotten Tomatoes, and it seems like people like it, so I mean, why didn't people go out and see this movie? So I'll be interested to see what the drop is next weekend. I would expect it to be relatively low, actually, and that's because there really aren't any other kids' movies out, and I think positive word of mouth is going to benefit this movie. Also, it just isn't starting from a very high number, so even if it comes out and it makes like $17 million next weekend, that is an excellent percentage week drop. So DC League of Super Pets underperformed, but the other new release, Vengeance, really underperformed. And that's a real bummer because I went out and I saw this movie and I liked it. I'm thinking about doing a review for it, so I'll expand on this if I end up doing that video, but it's very clear that a lot of effort went into this movie by BJ Novak, and I was really curious to see what he had to say. And he definitely had a lot to say. This is a really interesting sort of thriller comedy-ish movie. It's really different than a lot of other things out there right now, but it doesn't look like the masses really cared what BJ Novak had to say because it only made $1.75 million in its first weekend. Now, this should be taken into account. It only opened in 998 theaters, which is considered a low number for a new release. But whenever you look at its per theater average, it only made like $1,700 per theater. For context, Elvis is in its sixth week in just under 3,000 theaters, over 2,000 theater average. So no matter how you cut it, Vengeance just did not perform very well. And, you know, I'm kind of torn as to what this means because we've had a lot of creative, different original movies come out this summer and perform well. So it's not a situation where I'm going to sit here and be like, no one goes and sees new original movies anymore. I think it's just a situation of what original movies do people want to go see. So I guess at the end of the day, people just really weren't interested in whatever Vengeance had to offer. And again, I liked Vengeance. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. But this isn't a situation where people don't want to go see original films. Because we've seen original films come out and do well so far this summer, Vengeance just wasn't one of them, sadly. Now, aside from the underwhelming openings of the two new movies, I did want to touch back on Nope and how it performed in its second weekend. Now, I was expecting to see sort of a significant drop in Nope weekend over weekend because it seems like audiences are torn on it, while the vast majority of, Rotten Tomatoes audiences say that they like the movie, I like the movie, you still run into people who just absolutely hated it, and if you don't believe me, you can look at the comments from my review for that movie. So I was thinking it would at least be over 60% in its weekly drop-off. However, it only dropped 58%. It made $18 million last weekend. So I thought that was interesting, despite the fact that it's getting kind of a mixed reception from general audiences, that it's continuing to perform well, and I think what that speaks to is Jordan Peele's name value, given that, maybe people didn't have a chance to go see it last weekend, they can only see it this weekend, they still want to go see this movie to go see this guy's vision. Or at the very least, they want to be able to add something to the conversation involving this movie. I, for one, am happy that it only dropped 58% because I like the movie and I like Jordan Peele. I want to see his films do well so that we get more films by him. Because that's what the box office is. It tells you what works, what doesn't right now with audiences and getting them to go to the theater. So as long as Jordan Peele's movies make money, he will still get opportunities to make those movies. Granted, whenever you're a filmmaker like Jordan Peele, it's clear that he doesn't really care about appealing to the masses. But still, in order to get your movies onto those big screens, you have to be able to walk in front of a production company and say, hey, whenever I make movies, they make money. Would you like to finance this movie and make money with me? You basically know all of the mainstays in the top 10 at this point. Thor's still there, Minions is still there, Top Gun, of course, Where the Crawdads Sing, Elvis, Black Phone, Jurassic World, all of them are still doing just fine. Ooh, but I will say Everything Everywhere All at Once recently expanded to over 1,300 theaters, so if you have an opportunity to go see that on the big screen and you haven't yet, go do it. That's going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching another box office report. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want more, and I'll see you next time.